Have you ever walked away from someone who made you question your worth, someone who once made you feel seen, then slowly turned your light into their shadow? You gave and gave, hoping that one day they'd finally meet you halfway. But all you received in return were fragments of affection carefully rationed out to keep you hooked, to keep you doubting, to keep you small. Then one day, something inside you broke. Or maybe it wasn't a break at all. Maybe it was a quiet awakening. A moment where you realized you can't save someone who thrives on your pain. So you walked away. You cut the cord. You stopped explaining yourself. Stopped chasing closure. Stopped bleeding for someone who never intended to stop the wound. But what happens next? What happens in the silence that follows your goodbye? Today we're going to dive deep into the emotional stages a narcissist experiences after you cut ties. Not the version they show the world, the cold indifference, the sudden rebound, the social media performance. No, we're peeling back the mask. We're stepping into the space they hide from everyone, the places where their ego trembles, where their illusion starts to crack, and where the absence of your love begins to echo louder than they ever expected. You see, when you walk away from a narcissist, it doesn't end with silence. It begins with it. Because what you took from them wasn't just attention, it was supply. It was validation. It was proof that they mattered. And without it, they spiral through emotions they never learned to name, never learned to heal, never learned to face. This story isn't about revenge. It's not about hoping they'll suffer. It's about truth. It's about understanding what happens behind the scenes so you can stop romanticizing their reaction, stop wondering if they ever cared, and start anchoring into your own healing. And if you've ever felt like walking away was the hardest thing you've ever done, stay with me. Because by the end of this story, you'll see that their silence isn't your punishment, it's their unraveling. And your distance, it's your freedom. If you're new here, make sure you follow this channel because we create stories that speak to your soul, stories that hold you in your healing, stories that remind you you were never too much. You were just too real for someone who needed illusion to survive. So if this resonates, take a breath and stay with me. Because what comes next will reveal everything you've always sensed but never had the words for. The first stage a narcissist faces after you walk away is shock. But not the kind you and I know, the kind that aches with sadness and longing. No, theirs is a wound to the ego. When you cut ties, you don't just leave their life, you shatter their mirror. The reflection they depended on to feel powerful, adored, in control, it disappears overnight. You might think they don't notice. You might even see them post photos, smiling, pretending to move on. But beneath that facade, there's chaos. They scan their phone, waiting for your message. They replay the last conversation, twisting it into proof that they were the victim. They tell themselves you'll come back because you always did. You were the one who cared enough to stay even when they withdrew. You were the one who apologized just to end the tension. You were the one who kept the story alive. And now, you're gone. At first, they refused to believe it. In their world, people don't leave them, they leave people. They think, you're just emotional. You'll calm down. You'll text me soon. They confuse silence with strategy, but days pass, then weeks. The phone doesn't ring. The control they held starts to slip, and for the first time, they feel something they can't manipulate: emptiness. This emptiness is unbearable for someone who spent their whole life escaping it. They've built their identity through the eyes of others, through praise, attention, fear, admiration. Without you, there's no reflection left. No one to absorb the blame. No one to validate the lies they tell themselves about who they are. So they try to fill the void. They may reach out to old flames, post subtle messages meant for you, even start dating someone new fast. But it's not love. It's not healing. It's distraction. It's noise. They're chasing your energy in every place they can find it, but nothing fits quite right. Because what they lost wasn't just a partner, it was a lifeline. Someone who mirrored back a version of them they could tolerate. Meanwhile, you're sitting in your own silence, torn between relief and guilt. You start wondering, do they miss me? Did I matter? And that's what they count on, the hope that you'll question yourself enough to come back. But don't confuse their silence for strength. Their stillness isn't peace. It's panic, wrapped in pride. They won't show you the unraveling. They'll hide behind arrogance, behind indifference. They'll pretend they're thriving, but deep inside their world is tilting. Because when you walked away, you didn't just remove your presence, you removed their power. So if you're listening right now and wondering if your absence has any impact, let me whisper this truth. It does. It always does. But it's not your job to witness their downfall. It's your job to rise from your own. Take a breath. Feel that quiet space around you. That's where your healing begins. Theirs may start too, but only through pain they're too afraid to face. In this first stage, the narcissist shock is not a sign of love. It's a reaction to loss of control. Remember that. Because the second stage is where the mask begins to slip and the storm starts to break through the silence. After the shock fades, the second stage begins rage. It's not the fiery kind you see in arguments. It's quieter, sharper, hidden beneath a smile, behind a carefully crafted image that says, "I'm fine. I'm better without you." But make no mistake, inside, they're burning. Narcissists survive by controlling the narrative, and when you walk away, you steal their script. You become the one who decided, the one who ended the story on your terms. That's intolerable to them. Their mind begins to twist the truth to protect their fragile ego. They tell themselves you were ungrateful, selfish, disloyal. They rewrite the story so they can still be the hero or at least the victim. You'll feel the ripple of that rage in subtle ways, maybe through silent treatment if they still have access to you, maybe through gossip, smearing your name to mutual friends, or planting seeds of doubt about who you are. It's their way of reclaiming the power they lost. If they can't control you, they'll try to control how others see you. But behind the mask of revenge lies a deeper truth they're hurting. Because no matter how many stories they spin, no matter how many times they tell others they're better off, the emptiness remains. Rage is their way of numbing it. You might sense it too, this energy that lingers in the air. You feel them thinking about you, watching, waiting for a reaction, because that's what they want most now, your attention, any kind. Anger, defense, tears, it doesn't matter. As long as you engage, they win. But this is where your power grows. By choosing silence, by not responding, by not feeding the storm. Because rage without an audience turns inward. It starts to devour the person who created it. They'll cycle through every tactic to draw you back in provocation, guilt, pity, even sudden affection. They may reach out with soft words, saying they've changed, they understand now. But listen closely, it's not growth speaking. It's desperation. It's the echo of someone who can't stand being unseen. And that's the tragedy of this stage. The narcissist's rage isn't really about you, it's about their reflection. They're raging at the emptiness they feel without someone to project their pain onto. Without you, they're forced to confront the one thing they've avoided all their life, themselves. In these moments, it's easy to question your decision, to wonder if maybe you were too harsh, too sudden. That's the pull of old patterns, whispering that peace comes from fixing what's broken. But not this time, because this isn't a wound you can heal, it's one they have to face alone. So when you hear their anger, their accusations, their silence, remember what it truly means. It means your absence is working. It means your boundaries are holding. It means they no longer have access to your light. Take a breath here. Let the truth settle. Their rage isn't a reflection of your worth. It's the sound of their control collapsing. And as they spiral deeper into it, a new stage begins to rise beneath the noise, the haunting awareness of what they've lost. When the fire of rage begins to fade, what remains is something they've spent their whole life running from: emptiness. This is the third stage, the quiet one, the one they never show the world. Because behind every mask of superiority, every smirk of indifference, there's a hollow space that hums with loneliness. And when you're gone, truly gone, that silence becomes unbearable. They start to feel the absence everywhere. In the morning when they wake and there's no message waiting. In the small pauses of the day when no one is there to listen, to fix, to reassure. They notice how their new distractions don't taste the same, how the faces around them don't carry the softness you once did. They may try to replicate you to find someone who gives the same tenderness, the same devotion, but deep down they know it's not you. Because you weren't just another source of attention, you were stability. A reflection that made them feel important, a safe place they could return to after they'd burned every other bridge. And now that you're gone, they're standing in the ashes. This emptiness is the stage they dread most, because it reminds them of the truth they've spent a lifetime avoiding. Without someone else's energy to feed on, they don't know who they are. They've built an identity on admiration, validation, power, and when that collapses, they're left staring into the void of their own unhealed wounds. Sometimes, they'll mask this with overconfidence, throwing themselves into new relationships, new achievements, new distractions. You might see them flaunting their life, posting pictures, telling everyone how happy they are. But every boast is a plea. Please believe, I'm not broken. And yet the nights grow longer. The silence grows louder. They scroll through old messages, replay memories, not because they miss love, but because they miss control. They wonder how you could leave, how you could move on without looking back. And slowly, a new emotion begins to surface: grief, not for you, but for the power they once had. Still, in rare, fleeting moments, there's something else too, a flicker of truth, a whisper that says, maybe it was me. It doesn't last long. They push it away before it grows roots. But for the first time, they feel the sting of self-awareness, a glimpse of the person they might have become if they'd learned to love instead of control. You'll never see this side of them. They'll never admit it. But know this, your absence forces them into the mirror they've avoided all their life. And while they may not heal, they will never forget the one who made them face their own emptiness. This stage is not your responsibility. You don't need to fix the silence you left behind. That space belongs to them. Now it's their teacher, their truth. For you, it's a sign of freedom, because as they spiral inward, you're learning how to fill your own silence with peace, not pain. So if you ever wonder whether walking away mattered, remember this. You didn't just end a relationship, you ended a cycle. You taught someone who thrived on power what it means to lose the one thing they can't control, a heart that no longer needs them. And from the ashes of that emptiness, a final stage begins to emerge, a stage where the narcissist faces the deepest truth of all. After the emptiness settles in, something unexpected begins to stir inside them, a flicker of longing. Not the kind that leads to real healing, but the kind born from regret and fear of permanence. This is the stage where they start to remember not how they hurt you, but how you made them feel. They remember the way your eyes softened when they were cruel, the way you forgave when they didn't deserve it, the way you always came back, even when you were breaking. They start to reach for the ghost of you. They scroll through old photos. They draft messages they never send, or maybe they do. Short, careful ones like, hey, I've been thinking about you, or I hope you're okay. Not because they want to own their actions or make things right, but because they're testing the door. They want to know if you'll still open it. This longing is a dangerous illusion. It isn't love, it's nostalgia, mixed with hunger. They don't miss you for who you are. They miss you for what you gave. The calm you carried, the forgiveness you offered, the way your light made their shadows less visible. Without it, their world feels colder, harsher. And deep down, they begin to sense the truth. They didn't just lose control. They lost someone who saw the good in them even when they hid it from themselves. So they try to recreate it. Some may attempt to hoover you back in promising change, offering apologies that sound rehearsed yet strangely sincere. They'll say things like, I've realized a lot, or I've been working on myself. And for a moment, you might feel the old pull. That small part of you that still aches for the person they could have been leans in, wondering, maybe this time it's different. But pause here, breathe. Remember what you've learned. True change doesn't come from loneliness, it comes from accountability. And accountability requires humility, empathy, and time. Things a narcissist rarely chooses, because it means dismantling the identity they've built to survive. Their longing isn't transformation, it's desperation, a craving for the comfort of the world they destroyed. When they realize you won't return, the longing turns inward, folding into quiet resentment. They may project it outward again, convincing themselves that you were ungrateful, that you gave up too easily. But no matter how they spin the story, a trace of you remains a memory they can't erase, because you were real in a way they never learned to be. And that's the truth that haunts them most. You were authentic, loving, brave enough to walk away, while they, despite all their masks, remain lost behind their illusions. In this final stage, they face the consequence they fear most: invisibility. You no longer orbit around them. Your silence is permanent. Your healing is visible. You become a mirror they can't distort anymore. And though they may never admit it, they'll carry your absence like a quiet ache, a reminder that the love they took for granted won't return. But for you, this stage is liberation. It's the moment you stop looking back, you stop wondering how they feel, because now you understand their journey isn't yours to witness. Their pain isn't yours to soothe. You've already given enough. Let their longing be their teacher. Let your peace be your answer. And now, here you are, standing in the calm after the storm. You've watched the unraveling from afar, the shock, the rage, the emptiness, the longing, each stage revealing not your worthlessness, but your power. Because leaving someone who feeds on your light is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of courage. It's saying, I deserve peace more than I fear their pain. You may never get the apology you deserve. You may never see their mask fully crack, but you don't need to. Because healing doesn't come from their remorse. It comes from your return to yourself, the softness that survived the chaos, the voice that now speaks with truth, the heart that knows it can love again without losing its shape. So breathe. You did the hardest thing. You chose yourself. You walked away from manipulation disguised as love, from attention that cost you your peace. And though their silence may echo for a while, let it remind you, you no longer belong in a place where your soul had to shrink to stay. Let them face their stages. Let them chase what they lost. Your story moves forward into stillness, into light, into love that does not demand your suffering as proof. If this spoke to you, if it touched the places words rarely reach, stay close. This space is for you, the ones healing quietly, the ones rebuilding slowly, the ones learning that closure comes from within. Follow, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to know they're not alone. And before you go, whisper this truth to yourself. I am not what they lost. I am what they'll never find again. Your healing is your legacy. Your silence is your strength. And your peace, that's your freedom.